good afternoon, and welcome to Table Talk with Brenda Perryman. I want to make sure that I guess everybody does hear me. And welcome here today. Right now, we're starting off with two of our Table Talk co hosts. That's me, and I'll introduce you to her. I'll let her introduce herself in just a moment. And Miss Ajumu will be late, but it'll be three of us today on the show. But we still have a very, very exciting show, and I'd like to introduce my co host.
Hi, everyone. Dr. Rose Moulton, and owner of Transcendent Life Counseling Services, clinical psychologist, author, speaker. Glad to be here with you today.
Everything else,
Absolutely.
everything else. And we also, Rose, we saw some pretty good films over the past few weeks. We're going to talk about that.
Yes,
We're
we
going to
did.
talk about that later. We're going to talk about that later. I'm just make sure my microphone is on. Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. I just wanted to make sure my producer will be back next week, and I'll be in order. And now, before we begin, we're going to go on this day in the book by Mr. King Coleman, on this day in African American history here in Detroit. In 1964, some of you remember that time, Marvin Gaye performs Can I Get a Witness on the United Kingdom all-rage television Ready, Steady, Go. Two recordings in 1982, two recordings from a couple of local musical artists who offer spiritual messages and danceable club grooves are represented on Billboard's charts. There's Alicia Myers, who the song, I Want to Thank You. Well, I Want to Thank You. I know Alicia, so she wouldn't mind me adding my tune to it. Is number 83. I heard Henry Tyler on the Billboard Black Singles Chart. The Clark Sisters, You Brought Me Sunshine. You Brought Me, Sunshine album, which includes a single of the same name, is well positioned on the best-selling spiritual LP chart at number 9. Isn't it amazing how much incredible talent comes out of the city of Detroit? And we have a lot to talk to you about and everything. And I mentioned just a minute ago about the films that we've seen over the time. Rose,
Yes.
you just saw The Best Man.
Yes, I saw the
Holiday-
Best Man
Holiday.
Holiday last weekend, and I think the weekend or two before that, 12 Years a Slave.
I couldn't be a slave for 12 minutes. I mean, I'd be trying to escape. They'd end up killing me. What did you think? Let's start with 12 Years a
You
Slave.
know, that movie, and I shared this on social media too, that was the first movie I've ever had to leave the theater to compose myself and go back in to finish watching the movie. The movie was brilliant. The cinematography was beautiful. The acting was superb.
And the cinematography, how they caught the bugs on the tree.
Yes, bugs on the tree. I mean, it was, for a movie as disheartening as that, the cinematography was beautiful. And I'm expecting Oscar buzz with that. Some of the performances, the young, I guess this was
Young
her
lady.
young lady from Kenya. I don't know her name now, but this was her first performance, I believe.
First film performance
Yes.
after graduating from college.
After graduating from Yale, I
Yale,
believe, School
Yale.
of Drama, is it?
And that's a great school of drama. If
Yes.
you can't come out of there and get some jobs, tell me what.
And you know what? I've heard a lot of people say, oh, here comes another slave movie, but it's unlike any you've ever seen. It's a different dynamic to it, and I'm not going to give any spoilers or give it away, but this is the first time, as they're saying, that a movie is told from the perspective of an actual slave. Solomon Northup actually wrote the book 12 Years a Slave because it's based on his experience. And this, again, this is someone who, and this is as far as I'm going to go, who was a free person.
Well, a part of the trailer that you do see is he saying, I'm going to stay resolute. He's not
Yeah.
going to give up.
Wow, but it's just so, and it's not just his journey, but looking at the journey and all the acting from everyone. It was produced by Brad Pitt, was one of the producers of the movie as
Absolutely.
well, and he has a small role in there, but instrumental role nonetheless in the movie.
And the thing about it, people always complain to me, said, look at all these British actors getting these roles, but they're, you know, they're able to forge through that accent.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's true.
Think about it,
acting, right?
because Idris Elba, Idris, you know, he also is from over there, and they're all of African descent. They're all of African descent, and I mean, he played the guy on The Wire.
Yeah, yes.
He's played all different kinds of characters, and he's affected different accents.
Brilliant. That's brilliance
And
right
they
there.
say that Mandela will really, I mean, he's been
forward
on
to
my
that.
map for a long time.
We all
but
know that. If you look at Brenda's page, you know Edris has a permanent role on their picture.
I even have his CD.
Oh, do you?
Yes, I do.
You're probably the only person I know with that.
I'm sure I am.
That's a true fan. True
he
fan.
has 5 songs on it.
You
and
have to
he-
get him on the show.
Well, that's something I'm going to try to
I'm
do.
sure you
I
are.
think he is reachable. Reachable.
That is awesome.
But also, as far as 12 years
Mm-hmm.
a slave, you look at the slave owners, the certain slaves, some were incredibly cruel, and others were less cruel.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Because slavery in itself is a cruelty.
It's a cruelty, and there was a spectrum as far as how cruel they were. So we don't want to minimize it by saying, "Oh, there were nice slave owners in the movie" or what have you. But contrary to what a lot of people, there were people I've heard saying both on social media and to me personally, I can't go see that movie. I'll leave mad. I'll leave upset. I'll want to go out there and hurt someone. Trust me, that shouldn't be the response you leave with. When I left that movie, I left feeling empowered and
More
yes,
resolute.
more resolute, because seeing what our ancestors were able to endure, you know, what we face is a cakewalk today. You know, the things that we gripe about, that we bitch about, or what have you, is nothing more than a cakewalk. And I told both my sons that I'm making it mandatory for them to go see the movie before they get Christmas gifts, because I think it's just important for young people to have a look at just what our history is and the determination that, you know, we're built upon, that's built into our DNA.
Have you ever tried to do any genealogy?
I have a cousin that I just got into contact with. I didn't even realize this was a cousin of mine when we were on social media. But he's written 2 books. He's just accepted a job with the government dealing with genealogy as well. And
Is he local?
he's in D.C. now. He was in Atlanta as first, but what happened, this is how I hooked up with him or found out about him. I was Googling my great-grandmother's name because I knew my great-grandmother died at the age of 115.
Wow.
And her name was Lovey Moulton Westmoreland.
Really?
And I had Googled her before, but nothing would come up. So one night, you know, you're just surfing the web, and I put her name in, and all this information comes up. And it starts going back and back and back and back. And it traced all the way back to my great-great-great-great-grandfather, who was a slave. His name was Big Bob Ely, which is interesting because my dad's name was, everybody called him Bob. My dad's name was Robert. So I had no idea that I had a great-great-great-grandfather who was a slave. They used him as a breeder slave.
Well, my great grandfather was a breeder.
Yeah, that's
Seriously,
what they did.
because my family's tall
Uh-huh.
and big.
Yeah.
So therefore, that made stronger slaves.
Yeah, the strong
unfortunately.
bones. You know what they looked at, the teeth, all of that
Yes.
stuff. So Big Bob Ely was a breeder slave, and this cousin of mine, he traced all the way back to Africa.
What
with
do
the
you know the
family.
state?
The state was Alabama, so Alabama, Mississippi areas, but it's all in the book. So, but I felt so great because before this time, it went as far back as my great grandmother, who I had the privilege to meet when she was well into her hundreds.
Really?
But I didn't know anything else. So knowing about that, you can start tracing back, and you get to know yourself a little bit more with that
Wow,
information.
That is fabulous. That is amazing.
Awesome.
So I know my great grandfather. Well, it was great, or I'm not sure because my aunt told me his name was Ben. And after he was freed, he used to go throughout the countryside and sit under a tree, and he'd tell stories.
Wow, about his experience.
Yes, I mean, and maybe my father had told me they were brought in at the port of Charleston in South Carolina. My maiden name was Louie, Louie,
Wow.
and so they I don't know.
can go back and trace. But it's important for
Yeah.
all of us. I'm actually going to, within the next month or so, get the DNA, the like 23andMe testing.
Oh,
also,
yeah.
because I'm all about, especially with my background being in psychology and my whole push of personal transformation and personal awareness, really knowing who you are. And part of that goes back to getting in touch with your roots.
Right, right. It's one of these days I'm going to have you come on to deal with the vision board.
Okay, I would love
Because this year was the first time I did mine, and like 80% of it has come. So I mean,
Yes. that.
unbelievable,
Yes, so true. So true.
unbelievable.
Yes.
I tell you, if a couple of things happen, I'm gonna cartwheel. No, I'm very serious about that. But also, you saw The Best Man.
Oh, yeah. Did you get a chance to see it yet?
No, I didn't get a
Oh,
chance.
my.
But you know what? Somebody did the spoiler on the.
Oh, no.
Yes.
Did they?
And I thought that was kind
That's
of
rude.
insensitive.
Yes, that's
very
very
insensitive.
insensitive.
And people did say so.
Oh.
That people did say so
Yeah.
because you're just reading it and they did the spoiler.
And I heard them interviewing Malcolm Lee on the radio, and they were telling him, man, you did all these trailers for this movie, but no one expected it to really reach and touch everyone emotionally like it did. Like, you hit all
so
of
many
this.
people said they cried.
Oh, I cried. I watched the other people crying. I saw men wiping tears away from their eyes. And it's like before you could wipe away the tears, you were laughing. So any movie
Yeah.
that can elicit those type of emotions and reactions from the
Yes.
audience, in my opinion, is just phenomenal. And this movie is a must-see. It was a integrated audience. So, we both talked about the USA Today article talking about, black-themed film. This film was a universal film.
It was a
holiday
human film. It was a holiday human film, because why don't they take a film that has a mostly white cast like a Valentine's Day and
Yeah.
say, well, that was, they
A racially
marginalized.
themed,
See,
yeah.
they marginalized the black films. They marginalize it.
Which in turn minimizes it, and
Yes.
people say, I won't go see that because I don't think I can relate. Any and everyone can relate to this movie. I sat next to a white male in the movie that came by himself.
Really?
He was alone, and I saw him just go through every emotion. I mean, I'm loud and I laugh and I really give it to, where people have to say, quiet down a little bit because I just feel it. He was louder than I was. I mean, he enjoyed this movie thoroughly. So it wasn't a, movie that is only restricted to people of a certain cultural background to enjoy and get something from it. Great themes of friendship, of love, of, patience, and all of those great things.
It just gets me how the media does do that, and they marginalize so much. Now, they didn't do it as much to me with The Butler.
No, they didn't.
They did not.
Didn't. But what they're saying, I think The Butler, and this is going back referencing the USA Today article, which they got a lot of flack for last weekend. But with The Butler, that was probably the first film in a long time that has shocked them as far as the people coming out to see it, because it broke all expectations. So
Well,
to see
Oprah gave
yeah.
it that user-friendly.
And they wanted to just give it, this must be because of Oprah. But you follow that up with 12 Years a Slave, which opened up in a handful of theaters around the country. And since
handful.
then has spread,
Right.
just tremendously. And then you follow that up with The Best Man Holiday, and people are up in arms. How is it that these films that are featuring predominantly black cast members are doing so well in the theater?
Well, that was one of my thoughts about my film, In Trayvon's Footsteps.
Excellent.
Because it really is mostly black. But I wouldn't call it a black
No,
film.
not at all. And we thoroughly enjoyed that one as well. So
And
looking
so
forward to that.
I'm going to show the trailer on here. I just keep on forgetting to bring the trailer, but I'm going to show the trailer on here.
You
but
should. The audience would enjoy it.
Yeah. I showed it to my doctor, and he said, I'm impressed. The trailer, just the trailer. But Oprah, speaking of Oprah made a statement this week, and it says, what was the statement here? It was about, basically she was saying that President Obama, the things aren't getting done because he is black. And they're saying that she was playing the race card and everything. And everyone knows she tried. She had tried. I'm not saying she does. She tried not to be very controversial when she was doing her own show. He says some of the treatment of Obama and the challenges he's faced is because he's an African American. And she said, Winfrey responded, has it ever crossed my mind? Probably it's crossed my mind more times than it's crossed your mind. Just the level of disrespect when the senator yelled out, you're a liar or you lied. Remember that? Yeah, I think that there is a level of disrespect for the office that occurs, and that occurs in some cases and maybe even many cases because he is African American.
Yeah.
Because look at the stock exchange hit the highest level ever yesterday.
Yeah.
But his ratings are down.
Well, you used the perfect term a few minutes ago, marginalized, right? Marginalized. But, you know, Oprah, and I don't see what's so controversial about what she said. The BBC reporter is the one that said, do you believe it's because he's African American? Have you ever thought of that? And she's like, of course. Who hasn't? I don't think you have to be African American. I have friends and colleagues who are not African American who will say, you know, you wouldn't see this level of disrespect, or they are alluding to the fact that this could potentially be because Barack Obama is an African American male.
Well, people are still trying to get him, saying that he is not American.
Well, you know.
No, it's still just this week. There were protests in front of the White House saying that he is not an American man. I don't know how he does it. I mean, I do not know how he keeps his...
Oh, that is the role. That's very presidential, isn't it?
Yes, and I think his wife is very much first lady.
Yeah,
because she
is.
isn't saying anything, but you know, she's kind of feisty.
She's had her moments.
She's kind of feisty, and I just think that she would say something if she could. I wonder what they're going to say after it's all over. He's out of the White House. Will they talk about how they feel?
When you mean the president and first lady?
Yeah.
You know, I think they're going to maintain that stance. I think they will maintain it. You think differently?
Well, yeah, I think they might. I just don't see how. It's somebody has to know something, you know. And they said Elizabeth Hasselbeck came out against Oprah Winfrey.
Okay.
About this.
She's on Fox now, right?
Yeah, she has a lot of nerve, you know. And I just think that Oprah Winfrey played it very, 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 very safe when she had her show. Don't you?
Absolutely, she did. She was very politically correct. And we have to understand Oprah in the beginning, and I've said this for years, it wasn't the black audience that built her. Like, she didn't have a large black following in the beginning.
Not at all, because a friend of mine who was in business with commercials and advertising, they said it was mostly the white companies loved her show.
Yes, and the demographic and the audience, and it was once she started really, you know, just blowing up into the stratosphere that a lot more blacks, because I remember when I was, she was in it for a long time, but when I was younger, a lot of, and I hate to say, but even black women just spoke poorly about her. I remember people saying, oh, we don't like her and this and that, but as she began to even grow and expand her brand, more and more of, you know, African American women began to really give her the credit that she's due.
Well, I was happy. I received 2 letters from her. I did.
Did you?
Well, the first one, I sent her Prime Time.
Oh, the poem.
Framed.
Yeah.
I sent that, and she sent me a thank you note. And the second one was about something else, because I did an Oprah commercial.
Yeah.
That's right. I did an Oprah commercial, and I got a card from her. These little things I keep for my children, you know, to pass on down the road. But I think that what she did, sometimes she made a little spectacle of herself sometimes. You know, I think one of the times was when the racist got up in her face and called her a name.
Okay, on her show.
Yeah, and how she took it. And a lot of people, you know, it's easy to armchair quarterback.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
Absolutely, yeah. You know, just from even my own personal experiences with her, I know when I was there at the show, and to watch her interact with the audience, she, you know, she makes it no qualms that she loves and respects her culture. Even behind the scenes when the cameras went off, some of the things that she did for audience members was phenomenal. And I sat there and watched, you know, a couple who was celebrating their 20th wedding anniversary. She got on the phone. Made a reservation for them to go to a restaurant that was like booked for years in Chicago. You guys are going on me. You know, there were other people in the audience trying to vie for her attention, but she honed in on her people. She did. And you know, that was one of the things that stood out for me and her staff. The people that ran that studio like a well-oiled machine, they were predominantly African American.
I wish I could answer the phone, but I don't have the phone over here. I'm going to get the phone over here in just a moment because I think somebody's calling. And I remember when I got up here, I said, I'm missing something. And I think it's the phone. But I think that with Oprah, right now, people are lauding her. They're lauding her and her interview with Spike Lee and so forth. Let's see what the call is. Good afternoon. Oh, just a second, just a second, just a second. We're coming, just a second, just a second. We're coming, just a second. Good afternoon. Hello? Hello?
Well, they'll call back, hopefully.
Hello? Hello? Call back. Oh, here it is. Good afternoon.
Hi, Brenda. How are you?
Oh, hi. How are you, Tom?
I'm doing well, and how's your and good afternoon to your guest.
Good afternoon.
Oh, yeah, this is Dr. Rose.
Yeah, you know what, Brenda? In terms of President Obama, the bottom line is he's going to be there for another 2 years. Okay.
Well, almost 3.
Well, okay, but don't care where his ratings are. He is the man for another 2 years.
Yeah.
And,
yeah.
you know, I know what Oprah basically said was that how some, you know, quite naturally it's not all because he wouldn't be there where he is had it been that way, but how some folk truly despise President Obama.
Yeah.
And, you know, regardless to that, I mean, because he has shattered, I mean, he's pulverized that stereotype in terms of us as a people, all right? And he's set that bar to the point where there are no more excuses. You know, in terms of someone black getting to the place where he is in the most powerful seat in the world. And so, you know, you can't sit there and talk about what somebody else did to you because he's a perfect example
Absolutely.
of what,
Right.
what you know, what he had to go through to get there. And but
Of
you
what
know,
can be achieved, right?
Exactly. You know, and I know like there's an article in the Free Press about, you know, the government's getting ready to sell the 31.1 million shares, and they're going to kind of like say somewhat take a bath of $10 billion.
What you mean, of General Motors?
Yeah, right, the stock.
Uh-huh.
But anyway, my thing is this. Better to take a loss, that $10 billion loss, than had President Obama not continued those loans, because he said this. He said, though it's the unpopular thing to do, it's the right thing to do. Because think of how many hundreds of thousands, probably millions of jobs he saved, and people from just falling off the edge. Because had he not continued those loans, from what I could understand.
Well, my daughter works at Chrysler.
Okay. Had he not continued those loans, they were saying that though Ford did not get any of that bailout money, which they didn't apply for, they weren't there, they would have gotten caught up in the wake of General Motors and Chrysler going over the edge, taking this country on an economic tsunami into an abyss of a depression.
Can you imagine what would have happened in Detroit?
Oh, Lord.
Detroit and all the surrounding
And,
suburbs.
Ohio, which has a big automotive population also. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, you know, they can say what they want to say about him. He's my man, and I still got his back.
Me too. Me too. I agree with you, Tom. Absolutely. I definitely agree with you. Well, I appreciate you calling in.
Okay, and thanks for taking the call.
And have a happy Thanksgiving.
And on that note right there, don't smoke too many feathers or drink too much turkey.
That's funny.
Tom.
Bye-bye.
Okay, all right, bye.
Bye-bye. Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. So, it's with all these ratings, and I said they never ask me. I'm never asked, what do I feel about
Okay.
president? What
Yeah.
is my approval rating?
Who are they surveying?
Who are they surveying? And I
Don't
think,
know.
the media is so powerful. It is powerful for good and not so good. It's extremely, extremely powerful.
I was watching a special last week on JFK, and they were talking about how even, the 50th anniversary, when the assassination occurred, no one would report, none of the agencies, the news, ABC, NBC, or CBS, that if he had actually been killed until they all got confirmation.
And they all knew.
And he says, one of the guys interviewed said, it's totally different now, our media, because everyone wants to be the first before they even get accurate information. People want to go out there and report things, and that's just the culture we live in.
Rose,
The media is powerful.
You weren't around in those days.
No, I wasn't.
But I remember specifically, I was in a biology class and came over the PA. It said, this is what came over though. And everybody I've seen interviewed the same thing if they were in school. Everybody get your wraps. I was in Catholic school. They said, we're going to go over to Mass, over to say prayers because President Kennedy has been shot. They did not say he was killed. They just said he was shot. We got our wraps. We were looking around. You can imagine how disturbed we were. But everyone got out over there. We started taking out our rosary. The priest was leading the prayer. And then a nun walked in, and she whispered something to the priest. He stood up, turned around to us. He says, we're going to dismiss school right now because President Kennedy has died.
Wow. Wow.
Oh my, that mile walk home, because we had to walk down Dexter. It was unbelievable. The things people were saying, I remember Linda Abernathy saying, we're going to all have to start speaking Russian now. I mean,
wow.
it's a lot of people had a lot of faith in him. Maybe it was the personality or something like that, or it was a young man in the office, because he was only 43.
Yes, yes. The
When
youngest
he came
at
into,
that time. Yeah.
Yes, yes, he was. Well, I don't think, how old was Barack Obama? 46
No.
when he came into office?
He's been in about, he was probably about, I don't know.
Yeah,
I can
he was
Google
even
it, but-
over President Kennedy. But it began 4 or 5 days of surrealism. And then that Sunday, that was Friday. That Sunday, my mother was vacuuming the floor, or I was vacuuming the floor. Somebody was vacuuming. It probably wasn't me. But she had the TV on, and all of a sudden she said, they shot him. And this was Lee Harvey Oswald. They were walking him
Okay.
through, and he got shot.
Yes.
And it was like crazy. And the only other time I remember it being so crazy was 9/11, when you didn't know what was going to
Yes,
happen.
Absolutely.
So, like you said, nobody had reported that he died right away. And he was dead
Yes.
right away.
Yeah, he was right away, but there was a certain amount of just integrity, I think,
Integrity,
the media held.
decorum, and everything. And just the thought that he was shot, I remember my thought, I said, maybe it's just in the arm.
Yes.
I had watched
Wishful thinking.
I thought it was just in the arm, but today is the 50th anniversary.
50th anniversary.
And it's amazing how years go by, because I said, 50 years? My God, I can't even believe that I remember that, you know. But it was just something that was real, real different for everybody. And the other thing was, when he did when Martin Luther King did the I Had a Dream, Have a Dream speech, President Kennedy, they said, watched it from his window or something like that, or maybe television. But he was at his window, and right afterwards he had his door open for Martin Luther King to come in and talk about it. And
Someone wants to share with you their
oh
moments.
yes, can we take a break real quick? We'll just take a quick break in just a moment, and we'll be back in just a moment. Just a second. We'll be right back.
You're watching UHF TV 30.
I am back, everybody, that was a little emergency, and I had to take care of it. Thank you all for your patience. Now, in Grosse Pointe, there has been a video uncovered where they had a gentleman. Would you talk a little bit about it?
Yeah, it was a gentleman, African American gentleman, Ronnie Scipio, I believe.
Scipio.
Scipio is the last name. 55-year-old who is developmentally challenged. Apparently, Grosse Pointe Park police would make it a regular occurrence that they would humiliate him. And because he's developmentally delayed, he may not have been aware that that's what was going on, but they would request that he sing and he dance, and they would record it on their cell phones and share it with people. They would, text the video to people, and
Make fun.
Yeah, make
I
fun
mean,
of him. Just humiliate this gentleman. And there were numerous videos from and I'm sure you've heard the same thing, Brenda. All the videos have not been posted because they said there are some videos they refuse to post because they would elicit so much outrage that they do not want, the public being outraged as such.
Well, yesterday, Minister Malik Shabazz, TV33's Minister Malik Shabazz of the Marcus Garvey movement, well, they had a protest out there at the police department. He said the repercussions, there need to be repercussions for those who are responsible. He says, to me, it appears to be racist in nature. And it does.
Yeah.
Clearly, it's a human rights violation.
Absolutely.
And that's very important,
Absolutely.
human rights. And we want the police department to fire whoever did this. The ones who are guilty are the ones who should be dealt with.
Absolutely. When the story first broke, because I've been covering it from the beginning, I know the police chief, the head of the police department there in Grosse Pointe Park, first response was he didn't believe it. This was before the videos came out, because one of the police officers who I guess was implicated was going through a divorce, and he says the future ex-wife was just trying to slander his name. But when all these videos started surfacing, he no longer could take that realm.
So I wondered where they came from. They came from the wife?
They came from, supposedly, that's what allegedly the police chief said before the videos came out. Because initially there were just allegations that, they were humiliating, targeting African Americans and humiliating them. So I guess the chief was unaware that there was actually proof in this pudding that videos existed to prove that this was really going on. So since then, there's been a kind of change of stance with the police chief and saying, okay, we're going to investigate this. But allegedly, it was first leaked by soon to be ex-wife. Hell hath no fury.
I mean, women, I tell you. But I would never do anything like that. But it's about hurting. It's about hurting. But it was good. It did come out.
It was excellent.
I'm
It did
happy
come out.
it came
needed
out.
to come out, because this would have continued, and it would have just, not with. And we just know of this guy, but apparently there are others as well. He's the Ronnie guy has gotten most of the media attention because there's so many videos that they've released with him in it. But I was listening to one of the NPR stations yesterday. They were talking to people calling in from the different parks, Grosse Pointe Park, Grosse Pointe Farms.
What were they saying?
They were, because the host was saying, I grew up in, this is the host of the show saying, I grew up there, and I know there's historically been that perception that African Americans should not come through the city.
Right,
They don't
right,
want to be stopped
right,
by the police,
right.
because that's just a common occurrence, or, a feeling that they were not welcome. I don't know, the situation or where this guy was when they did it, the location, or if he resided in the points or what have you. But obviously, like you said, this is a human rights issue, and he was definitely.
But this is going on throughout the country. What do you think it is? I mean, it's like a tone. And, the humiliation that's been going on with not only Grosse Pointe, but I've read of other things where they've humiliated black people and so forth. What is going on? It's almost like there's no fear of repercussion.
I think it speaks more of the people who are doing it also.
Yeah.
Because we
Character
know this is definitely character issues. This is such the minority of individuals who would actually do this to another human being. So, like you said, this is deep character issues going on for these people to be able to do this and then share it. You know, to humiliate someone who obviously has developmental issues going on. But I agree with you to some extent that people who do this oftentimes feel like there won't be repercussions. You wouldn't do it if you didn't think you can get away with it. None of these individuals would have posted or shared this video if they felt that it was going to be leaked, or even if it was leaked, it would be some backlash. And we just talked about the media, but the media has its benefit in our society as well, because if this, and social media included in
Right.
that, if this video had not made the airways and started becoming, you know, trending like it did, these officers would still be on the street. They still would be, you know, doing their job. It wouldn't be any backlash to it.
Absolutely. It seems like nationally, Detroit has been getting a lot of attention. This, the McBride situation,
yes.
it's been getting national attention. People are wondering, every time I talk to somebody out of state, they said, what's going on there?
Yeah.
I said, it beats me. I just say it beats me. Well, I hope that they deal with these people, because they say about 17% of the residents in Grosse Pointe are minorities.
Yes.
And it's not just black, you know, it's other minorities also. And I've been over there, you know, I eat lunch there from time to time. And I mean, they treat you okay, but it's just a different attitude out there sometimes.
And that, you know, that can be. There was another guy that a caller that called in the show and said that her uncle was an African American that had a construction company and built lots of the homes there in Grosse Pointe, and she said he would leave his job drunk sometimes driving home, but the Grosse Pointe Park police knew him so well that they wouldn't arrest him.
They would let him go.
So it was a level of familiarity. I know at times when I've moved into a community where I was the overwhelming minority and I had young sons who were starting to drive, they would encounter, each and every time they would encounter some incident where they were stopped, you know, their license was checked, but then after the officer understands, oh, I guess this kid belongs here, you know.
Well,
then
it's
they
true.
would leave them
It's
alone.
true
So
out there. It's
familiarity,
true out
yeah.
there, because down Coolidge,
And even out
It
Macomb,
used-
because I used to live in Macomb County
it
too.
used
so.
to be on Coolidge. Once you came across 8 Mile, if you went even 2 miles above the speed limit, you were pulled over. Then if they saw you lived in Oak Park, they'd let you go.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, it was calculated.
yeah.
It was calculated.
So, you know, that exists. That has always existed, and unfortunately, I think it's going to exist for some time to come as far as racial profiling. We can't deny it doesn't exist, because it does. I have two, you know, African American sons, and they have experienced it, and I've schooled them and educated them on what to expect. My son, he walks, you know, we live in a predominantly white area, you know, we're the overwhelming minority, and he will walk over friend's house sometimes at night, and he'll say, Mom, the police officer followed me all the way home, and it wasn't until he saw me pull the garbage can out for a trash day in the morning that he said, oh, this kid must live here and I'll leave him alone, or what have you. But they understand this. It's unfortunate, because we know that his counterparts never experienced this.
Right,
Never
right.
experienced this for the most part.
For the most part. And, you know, same thing happened with my son. My son was the first black bagger at Holiday Market. He was the first one. And I'll never
Trailblazer.
forget during, I mean, it's
Like
just
his
a
mama.
bagger, but the owner knew me. But here's the thing. One day during the Clarence Thomas trial, you know, with all the things that were going on with the Clarence Thomas trial and everything, and this white woman took her shopping cart and she pushed it into my son's leg and said, I won't be your what, dream boy? Because Clarence Thomas had said something about that
Yeah.
to, you know, what's
During
her name?
the hearings,
And I mean, it was like, you know, there's there's responsibility that comes with everything that high profile blacks do.
Yeah.
There's a sense of responsibility, and I don't care what you say. James Earl Jones once said, along with fame comes responsibility.
Yeah. And with us, with African Americans, like you said, it's not just about you. It's not just about us. We are, like you said, with great things or with position, things are expected, and there's responsibility because we are attempting to break barriers. We are attempting to break stereotypes. We're attempting to shatter misconceptions, myths, and all
Right.
those things that have held us back for so long. So there is an added responsibility there that each and every one of us should accept graciously, because it's our job if we want things different for our children and
Right.
grandchildren.
Well, I think I saw it was Jimmy Kimmel or some Jewish comedian who said that his grandmother or mother, whenever something happened, because they lived in New York, she says, "Oh, I hope it's not a Jew." And I think
Every
ethnicity.
culture,
We
yeah,
always
we
say,
can all relate
my
to
mother
that.
always says that. Were they black? And everybody's hoping that you don't have it, but unfortunately you have to. It would be nice if people did judge people by the content of their character
Yes,
only,
yes.
and not just by their color. But we live in America, which is getting, I don't know, the tone of America.
It's changing. I think this is, there's a term in psychology we use called the extinction burst. And the extinction burst is when things are on the edge of being
On the
eradicated.
precipice.
All of a sudden you see more of that occurring. You see more of it occurring because it's like the last ditch effort of people to keep it alive. And generations, like the younger generations now, are just so much more open, just around the board, to
Yeah, a lot of them are.
relationships,
Yeah,
friendships, where
I
they're going to
know.
live, all
Yes.
of that stuff. So there's I think what we're seeing now is what I would term from a psychological standpoint as an extinction burst occurring, where people who are really trying to hold on to the way things were and the way things should be, strong sense of shoulds and should nots, are really showing their not so nice sides,
Right,
trying to
because
keep
it's
things alive.
threatening to them.
Yeah.
It's threatening to them. And years and years and years ago, I used to say, because of what was happening, this is when I was working on my master's 100 years ago, I said there's this group of people who are always going to fight against that kind of change. When I was at my son's a few months ago for a birthday party, he has a mix of friends.
Yes.
All different kinds of friends, not just, and a mix of interracial couples too. And that is more prevalent. I don't care what anybody says or people try to fight it, that has become more prevalent. And I know some of the viewers have said on here, when I had interracial couples on my other show, they were really against it.
Well, you're going to have to, the world keeps moving, so you either get on or you fall off. I mean, that's the truth.
That is the truth, Ruth. And see, the thing about athletes, especially my daughter-in-law's father did not want her to marry my son because he had been an athlete. Nothing about how he was raised
Yeah,
and certain
yeah,
things
yeah.
like that. But now he's my son's biggest fan, And I remember when
Won him over.
when I first met the father, my son said, "Mom, don't mention anything."
Be nice. Be on your best behavior.
I know. I just wanted to appeal a little bit about the pantries, about food. There have been cuts in food stamps and everything, and even Forgotten Harvest, a lot of the places that have been giving food out, their shelves have been empty. And when you hear about a food drive, everybody, I would like if you have some extra food or some extra monies, please give, because a lot of people are losing their ability. They may have jobs, but their jobs are not paying nearly enough. They say right here, her shopping cart was filled with bread, yogurt, English muffins, fruits and vegetables and everything. That's the way it used to be. She feeds a family of 4. She's laid off. And this is not in Detroit. This is not just in Detroit. That's the irony. A lot of times people act like the poor people are just in Detroit. They're all over.
All over, and they can all use our help. So
Yes.
just reach into we all have things that we know we're not either going to use or we're willing to share with others or what have you. Think about those of us who are blessed to not have to worry about this and the amount of food you may even discard of every year that you don't have to discard of. The postmen sometimes they have their
Oh,
days where they'll pick up
I give
the
the
food. High schools, you know, a lot of elementary schools. My daughter told me she's in middle school now, and they're doing a food drive. So just ask around. Ask around.
if you can help, do. And a lot of churches are doing it. They're doing the coats for kids and coats for adults now. They want gently used things. A lot of places are, but I'm going to try from now on to the end of the year to announce it wherever I hear it, because with all the this gets me, all these cutbacks, yet they're going to stay in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of know why, but it just, and speaking of that, money and things like that, a lot of stores are staying open on Thanksgiving. I mean, Target is opening.
Oh my gosh, I'm not sure. I know Kmart.
Yeah.
Is it Kmart
I
that announced
think
it?
Kmart is giving people a little time off
Okay. Okay.
during the day. It's like they're going to be open to a certain time to give 3 hours off, so they could the employees can run home and eat,
and then come back and get ready. So it used to be Black Friday. Everything opens up at 4 a.m., 5 a.m. So people eat, take a little nap, and they get out there.
Do you do Black Friday?
No,
I don't either.
My daughter asked me the other day, Mom, are you going to do Black Friday? I told her no. I said, I cannot. That would just make me so anxious to be out there in all those crowds and people. We always hear the story, and we'll hear one come Saturday about somebody
getting
trampled.
Somebody getting trampled.
Getting trampled.
But you know, the
fighting
thing
over a
is,
doll.
they say here, it has yet to be proven that the majority of shoppers really want and need stores to be open Thanksgiving, a retail consultant has said.
Yeah.
Last year, 35 million Americans visited stores or websites on Thanksgiving versus 89 million on Black Friday. Black Friday.
Yeah.
Black. Why it gotta be black on Friday?
Well,
you know?
that's the one good thing. People look forward to Black Friday.
But stores like Nordstrom's, they are not opening. But Macy's is open.
Macy's just announced they're throwing their hat in the ring. You know, it's amazing. It's all about the money. It's all about the dollars. Because you say you're comparing the 35 million Americans that visited stores or website on Thanksgiving, but 89 million, so more than double, actually came out on Black Friday. But 35 million is not a small number to these consumers to come out. And so they look at that as dollars, dollars and revenue and profit. But, it's all about, they would not do it if the consumer didn't show up. If consumers didn't show up, these stores would say, next year, we're not doing it. It's a waste of money. We're wasting our resources, our lights, our gas, and all that, and it's not profit margin. But, people are making money. Also, I think, and I was thinking about this the other day, we have to understand that we live in a very, pluralistic society. Everyone doesn't celebrate Thanksgiving. We have lots of people who Thanksgiving is not a holiday that they observe. So
it's Thursday. It's a Thursday.
It's a Thursday. So from their perspective, you think about individuals who don't celebrate Thanksgiving. They're like, the whole country shuts down, but this isn't my holiday. Why can't I have a store to shop at?
What are you saying? Start the after Christmas sales on Christmas?
Am I saying that?
No, I'm not saying you're saying that. Will they be saying that next? Start the after.
They may try. They may try.
I think it's totally ludicrous. It is totally. I hear that people are in line already for Best Buy. I saw that today. They're already in line. There are a couple of people already in line.
What do you mean in line? Like physically in line?
They're at the store.
Camping out?
Yeah. Best Buy. Yes.
For what?
Idea. I have no idea. There's nothing that important to me. But on the other tip, did you see that thing about Walmart? How they have this, I think it was in Ohio, they have the thing to contribute to some of our employees who are not able to have dinner. It was something about give to some of our employees. Did you see
So their employees are needy.
Yes.
Okay, so they need to give some bonuses to these, not expect your shoppers to fill in that gap.
They are trying to give. And Walmart is an interesting company. It really is.
It's a dynamic amongst itself.
Now, something that you and I talked about this week and is more prevalent, I don't know how many of our viewers are on Facebook, but what do you use Facebook for? I think that there are people who use, there are at least three different kinds of people on Facebook, don't you?
You explain it. What are your three? What do you?
Okay, they're the people who put all of their business in the street. I mean, everything, good, bad, and indifferent. They're the people who sometimes try to call other people out. And then they're the people who may put a little quote, or I post pictures from the show, little things. I don't delve deep into my personal thing.
Yeah, but we've seen a lot of that in the last several weeks, where and I don't know if it has to do with the holiday season, although we see it a lot throughout the year also, but people, it seems like they're losing their minds, some of them.
People are they break up on Facebook. They don't want you to be friends with somebody that they don't like anymore.
Oh, that's happened a few times in the last few weeks for me, and it is amazing when you get those requests, because it's like, okay, are we in 6th grade? Are we back to middle school?
How awkward is this?
Yeah, that's quite awkward. That's quite awkward. But
what, you're not going to be my friend anymore if I keep John Smith on my friend list?
Yeah. And and my whole stance with that is I just have, again, this is a psychological term we call psychological reactance. For a person to ask me to do something like defriend someone, I'm more apt not to do it, because you're not going to control, my social media platform.
Well, Rose, we've seen how some people have feuded on Facebook, and it has turned deadly. Remember a couple of years ago, the one girl chasing the other girl. This was up near Pontiac, and the girl ended up getting in a car accident. It was all over Facebook feud over a man.
And in Florida, the gentleman that showed his deceased wife's body after he killed her.
Oh, that's
put it on. So he said he just wanted to let her family know that she had died in his, by his hands and his actions. She had died. But it's the unintended consequences on this. Facebook is a wonderful tool, wonderful media, and with anything, there are going to be unintended consequences.
What limits do you think that should be on Facebook?
Oh my gosh! See, I don't know if they could control the limits.
I mean,
but definitely not being able to
as far as Facebook etiquette, what would you say?
Definitely, I think you don't want to demean anyone else on Facebook. Or allude to, because we've seen some things where people have alluded to maybe
and
their
you
spouse
know
or
who
their
they're talking about.
And because none of us are, we're all smart enough, smarter than the average bear, so we can kind of figure out what you're talking about. But you want to be careful not to put anything out there that's going to demean or defame someone else. And if it's emotionally driven, maybe step away. I think we were talking, I said, I need to come up with a list, 5 things to do before you post something from your emotions. Go do 200 jump ropes, go run around the block, whatever. Unplug the internet connection and give yourself time to kind of breathe and think it out. Because anything you put on there, we've seen people put things and then they go out and take it off right away. But it's out there. Once you push post, it's there forever. You may be able to take it away, but people have that trail that they can see that this was actually posted, and and it really, for the most part, people who have a discerning just nature about themselves, it looks bad on you more so than the other person.
Right.
Yeah, so it reflects more on you and your lack of what we call emotional intelligence. There needs to be some emotional intelligence that goes along with utilizing these social media platforms.
Social media is very powerful.
Extremely powerful. We know young people who have committed suicide because of being bullied. People are being bullied on social media.
And people can set up fake Facebook pages.
Absolutely.
Remember that. People can set up fake Facebook pages. They can go by another name.
Yeah, another name. People, will hack into other people's Facebook accounts to make it seem like they're putting things. It's just a lot of the again, unattended negative consequences that occur. But let's not forget about the wonderful things, keeps people connected. I met my husband on Facebook.
I know. My daughter met her boyfriend on Facebook.
So Facebook has its benefits, but we have to use it for what it's.
I'm still waiting.
You still
waiting? I
waiting?
meet on Facebook.
You guys hear that?
No.
Go befriend Brenda Pyramid.
Oh, no. I'm busy. I'm really, really busy. But I think that people have become so reckless on Facebook. I really do.
I agree.
think people have become very, very reckless. I've seen people cheat. I mean, I mean, they've shown pictures of themselves and other people so that their other significant others to know.
Oh, yeah.
So, golly, Rose, it's just been the two of us, and time has gone
know.
by
You know
just
we can
like that.
talk.
I know, the fastest hour in television. Ladies and gentlemen, we want you to have a wonderful Thanksgiving.
Absolutely.
Are you
Yes.
cooking?
I am cooking, and I'm so excited. I love this time of the year.
I'm ordering in. I love it too. I'm ordering in. So I'd like to thank R.J. Watkins, Henry Tyler, and everyone here at TV 33 for giving me the opportunity to bring Table Talk with Brenda Perryman to you. And happy Thanksgiving. I'll see you next Friday.
Happy Thanksgiving,
Let's bring the
everyone.
issues to the table on Table Talk with Brenda Perryman.